Hello again, and welcome to the Healthy Enterprise. My guest today is Dr. Wendy Slone. She's an entrepreneur, an inventor, a Fulbright scholar, and she's the CEO and founder of BTEC. So BTEC has been helping to reimagine and redefine the conversation around wound care management with this really cool product called the Halcyon Smart Patch. So she's going to tell us more about that. Plus, she has some incredible advice for young entrepreneurs who are looking to make their way into the world with their ideas and their passions. So let's get started. Wendy, thank you for joining me today. Really appreciate you giving me your time and coming out and having a conversation with me. So let's start with tell the audience who you are and a little bit about your company and how you got started and a little bit of your history.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Wendy Slone. I am living in Cleveland, Ohio, and I have a company called BTEC. BTEC's product is called the Halcyon Smart Patch, and it's a small patch-sized device that you can put anywhere on the body to help heal wounds from the inside out. Our difference from other products that are wound care products is that we focus on increasing microcirculation to bring more oxygen and nutrients to the bed of the wound, and that's what helps to precipitate the healing from the inside out, strengthening the tissue along the way. Other types of wound care products generally close across the surface, and that's good, that's much needed, but the reason why the wound reoccurs is because it's really still open underneath the surface of the skin. So if you've got something that's healing it from the inside out, which is how the body likes to heal, then you've got stronger tissue. Now you have a less likelihood of that wound reopening and reoccurring, which can eventually possibly lead to an amputation. So what we're about is reimagining the conversation around wound care so that people begin to think about healing from the inside out and helping patients to likely prevent the need for an amputation. How we got started was out of love for parents. My mom was a diabetic, and I saw her unfortunately lose both of her legs within a 3-year time frame to diabetic foot ulcers. And I began saying, my God, there's got to be something else out here. And I learned two things. One, there really wasn't something that I felt that was suitable except for big lasers, which are cost prohibitive for most people. And then two, we haven't really changed how we manage chronic wounds since the dawn of man, since we came out of the Garden of Eden. We've still been using some kind of dry wet, some kind of gel. In Egyptian time, they were using honey literally, and we still find honey-based products now for wounds. They're honey-based gels. And so we haven't really changed. And the market, so on the consumer side, as well as clinicians, are looking for new types of materials. They're looking for new alternatives. So the market is ripe. So it's not just that the conversation and reimagining it, but people are looking for something more. A little bit about my background. This is my second business. I had a data analytics business before where I worked for a local company in Cleveland, and they had clients at NASA and ExxonMobil, and I used to be a STEM expert for them, helping NASA determine what kind of scientists they needed to hire. So did they need that engineer? Did they need a chemist? Did they need somebody who had a different background besides all of those hardcore sciences in the STEM to help them move their agenda forward? And then with ExxonMobil, a former astronaut had STEM programs that were at universities that targeted K through college, and I used to manage some of their programs and write their reports. My first PhD is in public policy. I started life in college as a biology major, and then I got hurt on my job, and I moved into public administration. And at first I was like, oh my God, this is all science. They don't know how to process and think and things like that. But I got over there and I fell in love and finished my master's and PhD there. I had originally been in the biology department getting a master's, and then you really put two and two together that I was working with light refraction and light therapy and nerve regeneration, and that's all that BTEC is now. And so it's like coming full circle. I was always really good at chemistry. It just came kind of intuitively. And people would ask, how do you know this technology? And I'm like, people invent stuff all the time, and don't have a degree or, it's like the mother of necessity, that whole comment.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
but I said, you know what, to go back. And so to kind of like quash the naysayers, I got myself accepted into a analytical chemistry PhD program. And, just for the knowledge, just so that I can say and talk with engineers. And a lot of people like assumed that I was an engineer. And I was like, no, I just play one. I just actually know a lot of stuff and can talk the language. And that comes from the NASA background and double fold because my dad worked at NASA. And so I'm a NASA baby. It fed me,
Oh,
educated me. And
interesting.
yeah, so you see the full circle thing going here.
Yeah,
And
no kidding.
yeah, so it was just when I look at it now, like kind of like a natural evolution that led to the Halcyon Smart Patch from all of that stuff that was me in the past.
Wow, what a great, and like just the way you piece that trail together, how you ended up where you are. It was like, how could you avoid it almost? It's just,
Right,
it's
right.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. So and so the wound concept too is that, I mean, yeah, like we all know what it's like. We when you have a cut, you put something gooey on there and then you wrap it up and then it gets all soggy and you take it off your finger and your finger is all white and
Hmm.
you're right, and things don't actually heal, but it protects. I guess really what we're doing is we're trying to keep the infection out or keep it clean is more or less what we're doing, but
Hmm.
yet that's not really what you're saying is going to
Yeah,
work. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
helping it
So
heal from the inside out. Explain how that
yeah.
actually happens. Like how do you
Yeah. So we use far infrared light and we put it onto a proprietary biopolymer nanomatrix, which is a big way of saying it's a Band-Aid size device. And it goes on, like if you've ever put on an icy hot patch or a salon patch, you can put this product
yeah.
on and it works the same way. So when you put a salon patch on or icy hot or whatever, it's conduction from one surface to another. And that's what releases the lidocaine out into the body. And then the body absorbs it. So it's the same principle with our
Oh.
Halcyon Smart Patch. When you put it on, it has the far infrared radiation wavelengths impregnated onto the device because it doesn't go onto the wound, so it's not considered a band-aid. Anything that goes onto a wound is considered a band-aid, but if it goes distally, it can be classified as a device. And so once you put it onto the skin, it's the body's ambient body temperature that activates the release of the far infrared. So let me just demystify far infrared. It's like solar, it's like the sun. And so what we're doing is just giving the body a small heat jolt to say, let's go into mitosis instead of apoptosis, meaning cell
Oh.
death. So what happens when you get a wound? The body skin starts saying, oh, die, die, die. Don't heal, don't heal. And if you've got a disease state like a diabetic, which is the diabetes, the body is already saying, oh, don't heal, just continue dying. And that's how wounds become bigger and bigger. So my mom, in her case, it was a small, tiny pinhole, like the tip of my finger, that went to a gaping hole this big down to the bone. And so what
No.
I'm saying is that we have the ability to potentially heal wounds as early as a grade 0 on a Wagner scale, meaning it still might just be a raised bump underneath the surface of the skin, to maybe a grade 3 is what we're targeting. At a grade 3, it means it's still open. You probably are getting down to some places where you could see some bone, and you could still use dry, wet, negative pressure. You could still use all of those things. So now what you've got is a twofold force of healing. You've got that surface layer, but ours is going to expedite because that nano and that biopolymer are known to expedite healing of a wound. That's why we intentionally use those two products as our nanomatrix. But now you've got a tooth prong. So you've got healing coming from the inside. And if you're using one of those other layers of closure, because the wound is like at a grade 3 or a grade 2, now you've got across the surface, because it takes a long time to heal across the surface. Like in my mom's case, it was more than 90 days to begin to see just an inch amount of regrowth of skin. And so the wound is open and vulnerable all that time. So
Right.
the quicker you can get it closed, the less likely that it's going to get that infection and a person devolves down into a cyclic cycle of infection, hospital, and eventually maybe some debridement, but eventually some kind of amputation. So we're all about limb salvaging, because what other people don't realize when you're talking about wounds is a couple of things. One, there's no one real person that is the wound guru manager. So wound can be managed by a podiatrist, which was the case with my mom. It can go to a surgeon rather, because now you've got to do some debridement, you've got to maybe do some amputation. It can be seen by that PC, it can be seen by a wound specialist, which most likely is going to be that nurse practitioner that's the wound specialist that has that hands-on with it.
Right.
So there's all of these different, moving parts when you're talking about wound therapy. So it's not like when you have a heart disease. Like I've got a brother in end-stage heart failure.
Right.
He goes to the cardiologist. And then the cardiologist sees and oversees every step of the process, right? But wounds, it's not like that. I often tell people wounds are not the sexy diseases or the sexy issues like cancer or heart disease. And I know people are like, oh my God, I can't believe she says that. But it's true. It's overlooked. The second thing is that people who are experiencing these amputations now are not the 65 and plus senior citizens. Now it's the 18-year-olds. Because our lifestyles have changed. We've become more sedentary. We've got more diabetics coming on board because of lifestyle changes and inactivity. And so because of that, now you're seeing these young kids with these chronic wounds that you would typically have seen maybe 30, 40 years ago, just in that 65 and older population of people. The third thing is that people burn through their human capital. And so people and family might be like, I'm not dealing with them no more. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to learn how to be a wound expert. Like my dad had to learn how to be a wound expert, and he would close my mom's, the caregivers. You see what I'm saying? And so everybody doesn't have that. So a comorbidity of a diabetic is obesity. And so if you've got a diabetic ulcer that's on the ankle and you're obese and you're wheelchair bound, how are you going to manage a wound? And then you got other wounds because you got pressure ulcers from sitting in the wheelchair. So you've always got something going on. And so you've got that. The other part that I find is that people don't realize the social construct issues around having wounds. People lose their jobs. So now they don't have the economics to pay for their lifestyles. They may not have the insurance anymore. And so they get depressed. And so in addition to the depression, the lifespan of someone who experiences an amputation has been decreased down to generally 5 years after the first amputation. And so you've got all of these factors that's going on, and all of this is supported when you go into the doctor and they start asking you, how are you feeling? Are you safe at home? All of those type of questions, those I think they're called SF-20 forms. Those documents also, when I went through and did a small survey of them, begin to show you that patients are saying, we need something different. We need something that's really going to help us heal our wounds. And the clinicians are saying the same thing. So on both sides, everybody is coming to the table. And this is why I say, and I started thinking about this, hey, at BTEC, we're helping to reimagine that conversation for people so that now we can get out of that box and begin to expand and grow in our knowledge and understanding of, hey, new technologies like biopolymers are coming online, nanotechnology are coming online, other types of fabrics and materials are coming online. Let's start looking at those and how can we use them effectively to help deal with something that is a chronic situation for people, let alone the fact that it's over $12 billion globally as an industry.
Wow.
That's crazy, right?
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Wow. That's an opportunity.
That's an opportunity.
So how is BTEC being received now? You're introducing this to care providers. So how is it being received? Are you getting good response?
I get good response. I think that people are excited about it. I think they'll be even more excited about it once we can get through a human pilot trial. We've done some initial testing, so we know that we can build it. We know that we can get reepithelialization. That's a fancy way of saying we know we can grow the skin back. But we need to apply it to a human to see what the efficacy of it is and validate it on that level. And once we do that, then we can take off. The beautiful thing about our product and our technology is a wound is a wound. And so it can be used in animals. So I've had interest expressed from veterinarians. I've had
Veterinarians.
interest from people that are cardiologists because we focus on increasing microcirculation. So, hey, will this work for my patient who has diminished microcirculation because they have congestive heart failure or some other kind of heart issue? And I'm like, yes, because our focus is increasing microcirculation. I get
Right.
interest from, cosmetologist saying, hey, I've got
Oh,
patients, I've
right.
done surgery on their face. Can this help to heal that wound, help to soothe the skin afterwards? Yes. My best one is we pitched to NASA, and we got vetted by them, and it was like, this is one, a technology we like, it's cool. Two, it's a technology that we would be interested in for two reasons. One is because when you go into space and you are in microgravity, and let me just add this, when like Jeff Bezos and all of them saying we're going into space, they're going to the threshold floor, right? So let me just clarify that. So it is
Yeah.
anti-gravity, but it's not space, right?
No.
But when you go into microgravity, and it mimics, when you come back into gravity, a chronic wound. And so the same
Is that
issues you would
right?
see in a chronic wound, you're seeing in people who are going into microgravity environments. So with NASA giving the goal to go to Mars, you're going to have civilians, you're going to have military people, all kind of people potentially going into space. How do you protect their bodies? How do you protect their connective tissue? This is something that could do that. We believe. We also believe that we can pivot the technology to be used as a personal radiation protection device because, again, our focus is keeping the body systemically healthy by keeping that microcirculation going. That's the life of the body. That's where all of the cellular stuff happens at. So if you can do that, then you can help maintain life in these environments. So I think that that's cool. So we've also
That is cool.
presented to the DoD, to the Air Force for being put into the rucksacks of the military so that they can use it immediately so that military personnel don't have to necessarily be deployed away from their combat assignment zone. They can be treated quicker and more rapidly, have better response time to gunshot wounds, chemical burns, any kind of situation that would damage the skin. Because again, a wound is a wound. The body doesn't care how it got started.
Essentially, could you make a T-shirt out of it or a pair of
Yeah,
long
so
johns or something? Like make
there are
spacesuits out of it.
you're right. You could put it, you could put it on the skins of planes to help protect planes. You could put it for commercial pilots. Commercial pilots and stewardess are susceptible to getting breast cancer because of the radiation flares. And if you fly a lot, the radiation flares,
Really?
they come through
Wow.
the hull of the plane, and so it increases the likelihood of you potentially getting cancer. Particularly breast cancer is what most research has shown. So there's many,
Very
many
interesting.
applications of it. I liken it to Coca-Cola and Pepsi when they had the Coke Wars. And Coke had one formula and they were doing it. And then here comes along that upstart Pepsi. And Coke had to say, we need to what? Reimagine ourselves. And this is how we
Ourselves,
got Coke
right?
Light, Coke Zero, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, all of that. And they began to
Right.
reimagine themselves as a business and diversify themselves and have a portfolio from one formula. That's what I look at BTEC is. We have this great formula in this product with the Halcyon Smart Patch, and we can take this and pivot it into many, many, many areas.
So when remind me again, when did you start this
So
company?
the idea for the business, now follow the trail of this. The idea for having a business was started in me in 2012. I registered the business with the state of Ohio, but I had no idea what I was doing or where I was going. It's only been, I want to say, in the past 5 to 6 years that we really worked out and hammered out what is the Halcyon Smart Patch. And so you have an idea and you just begin to float it around and tweak it and
Right.
work it until you figure out what you're doing. And so that really all started about 5, 6 years ago. And so we've
Right.
been moving forward ever since.
So in that time frame, what would you have said, as a new entrepreneur? Well, it was your second company, but for this company, you what would you say was your largest hurdles this time around? Where were you seeing the most obstacles that you had to kind of push past?
I think the biggest obstacle is when you're in the life sciences, deep tech, people always want to try to make a plumb line. Well, how do you know this? And
Right.
and people invent things all the time and had no clue. It was just I see something that needs to be done and I get a spark of inspiration and I began, like I said, begin to explore it until you hash it out and you work it out and you figure out what it is and how it works and then how you put it together. What I tell people oftentimes when they ask me about starting a business, I said, the first thing you can do for yourself that is good, even if you don't have the ideal fully fleshed out, is just register your business. Get your legal entity informed. The
That's
rest
good
of it,
advice.
the
Yeah.
rest of it will start to take shape as you begin to continue to work through it.
Hmm.
But you want to make sure if you got a certain name that you want to, a certain branding, all of those things, because oftentimes I find entrepreneurs don't look at the business. They look at the product. And I say you need to look
Right.
at the business that actually has a good product because you don't want to be a one-hit wonder. So BTEC is a
Right.
business that actually has a product that has the potential for a family of products from one device. And so you have to begin to also ask you, after you figure out what you're doing and what your product is and how it works, how can you leverage that product into a family of things under an umbrella of a company? So say for instance, if you have
Good
an
point.
umbrella company, then you can then have DBAs that do different things based on those different products and those different applications of it. So now you're building a family. Let's look at Procter and Gamble, right? Procter and
Yeah,
Gamble has
exactly.
many, many, many hundreds and thousands
Many
of
products.
businesses, but they're all under Procter and Gamble, right? So if you
Yep.
trace back Quaker, where is it at? Procter and Gamble. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you have to begin to think about the business and is your business sound and solid? And then is your product, because the product will stand by itself. It will develop itself as you continue to process through it, work through it, acquire talent to help you think through things. All of that will happen and come for you. So it's almost like a twofold, card. You've got to look both sides. But oftentimes I find early entrepreneurs don't look at their business. They only are looking at the product. So when they go out and they start talking to people and they start to trying to do validation, is this a product that the market can sustain? Is it a product that the market wants? It may sound good
Right.
to you and your
Very good
family, your
point.
cousin, right? And your cousin might be like, "I'm gonna give you a couple of dollars," but it is crap. Nobody wants to tell you that is crackerjack crap over there, right? So you got to do some
No, they're too
validation.
nice. They're too nice.
They're too
Yeah.
nice, right? So the other
Yeah.
thing I tell people is go out and do an I-Corp program. That was what I did. I did I-Corp and I
Mm.
did validation testing. So I talked to end users. I talked to people who would use the product. I talked to, other people. And what I did was I ingrained that process into the company so that we constantly keep our hand on a pulse of, is this still
Hmm.
something that is viable? Is it going to be something that the market can handle? Is it something that the market wants? Is it something that
Right.
people who would buy it would want to use? Because you got to begin
Yeah,
to
it's your market
build,
research.
you got to do your market research and you got to begin to
Yeah,
court early adopters. So you
that's
got to
right.
know who are your early adopters, who is your supply chain if you want to go that far. I want to be acquired. So you've got to be able to position yourself and have these conversations with strategics. Who are the strategics in your area? Let them know who you are. Let them know what you're doing. Do they have an interest in it? Because if they don't have an interest and you're trying to be acquired, it's game off, right? And
That's
so
right.
you
Yeah.
want to have all of these things in place simultaneously.
Yeah, it's great advice because so many people lead with the product. That's what their vision is. That's what their passion is, which is great. And that's very true. But I think what you're bringing to the forefront here is that you got to have a business
You got to have a
behind it.
business. Yes, you have to have a business. And
You
people
got, it's
have
actually the foundation of it. Yeah,
exactly because I find that are investing in you, initial, like in
that's right.
angels. They're investing in you. and that they see that you have the capability of bringing this product to market. But what they're really interested in seeing is not just your passion, but they're interested in seeing that you have a solid business model that is backed
Yeah.
by a solid business plan, that you know your financials and you know where they're going, and that
Yeah.
you're able to know what your milestones are and begin to work your milestones. So you can't continue, if you're in the life sciences, for instance, just doing R&D. You've got to get out there and
No.
you've got to do your FDA pre-subs. You've got to get out there and do your reimbursement analysis. You've got to get out there and if you got to do some clinical trial stuff, you got to build relationships with people and places where you can do that. You can't start cold turkey.
No. And where you're at right now, you're on the verge of human clinical trials, right? That's where you're at. You're just about to get into that
Yes,
phase.
yes,
And
yes,
what's that going to
yes.
take? What's that going to take to get you into that situation?
Yeah, so what we want to do is go from just our initial animal modeling, which were in rodents, into doing an expanded preclinical trial in two other animals. So doing an ischemic rabbit ear, because in diabetes, blood flow impediment is real. And so if we're addressing microcirculation, we need to know how our device works in that ischemic environment. And then from there, we would like to do a pig model, because pig skin
Like
is
very
like
similar to
human
humans,
skin.
yeah.
So we don't want to biopsy. Yeah, we don't want to biopsy patients. We want to be able to tell empirically how much reepithelialization we can get from the product, and those are two easy things. And then we would move into a pilot human study. And in a pilot human study, then we would do X amount of patients, and we would test it out on them before moving into a full-fledged. That pilot study, though, and this next milestone that would be the extended preclinical and the pilot human study, is our next milestone. And this is what will take us further into our desire to be looked at seriously by a large strategic for acquisition, or actually at least coming in as a preferred portfolio company that they will work with and mentor through, and eventually when we get to a certain place, look to potentially
Right.
acquire.
And then that's when they go to market, more or less. Yeah.
Yes, but they would do all
Yeah.
of that. So we don't have the breadth and the depth to hire, all of the sales
No.
force to do the distribution chain. So again, this is where people have to be realistic. Do you want to be an owner of a company, or do you want to be successful
Well, that's
and exit? And again, exit at the top of the bell curve, so that you may still be able to show value to the strategic, and that, hey, we've got other ideas. We want to license just this part to you, but then we want to take and license another part of the technology here. So you got to know your roadmap. And the only way you're going to know your roadmap is knowing your business plan and your business model.
right. And that goes for the business, but also for you as an individual, right? You got to know where you want to be, and
Exactly.
what you're willing to accept as a finish line, or where you want to go with it. So understanding that in advance is really important. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's great advice. Yeah. Um,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
now you're at the stage, you're in investment stage still, right? You're looking for more investors. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's kind of where you're working towards.
Yes.
So how do you find them? How do you find those people and attract them?
So that's one of the big challenge hurdles, and everybody will always say it's the money, but I find this, as an entrepreneur, you have to learn how to think out of the box, and not be like just so stringent that you cannot look to the left or the right. Oftentimes I'll ask people, say for instance, we needed help with our FDA pre-sub, we needed help with our reimbursement. We won some things through pitch
Mm,
competitions, and these were services that were part of that, which were a blessing to us because it was work that we needed to have done. It gives us relationship with them. It gives us ability to say, hey, when we do have funds, we want to continue that relationship because you've already done XYZ parts of work for us. And so it's really being creative and collaborating with entities that you would like to continue to work with, and that bring value to you. So we've been really blessed at BTEC to be able to do that. So that's one of the ways that we've been able to get where we are now, is thinking outside of the box. Another way that we've been doing recently is looking for strategic accelerators that are focused on taking you to that doorstep of commercialization. Again, that may have manufacturing partners, may have hospital associated partners with them that will help us to collaborate in further development of the device. But not only that, but they may be able to collaborate with us in terms of those clinical trials, getting those up and running and helping us to be able to access patients. So it's sometimes it's not all about raising the money, but it's more though importantly to look at how can you build strong collaborative relationships that will sustain themselves beyond 12 weeks or an initial investment. So what I've been doing, I learned this, I participated in a group called the Female Founders Capital Network over in Massachusetts a couple of years ago and part of their fellowship. And it helped me to get access to a list of investors. And so I'm constantly working through and onboarding new potential investors into a master spreadsheet. And then I just kind of work through those and apply. And sometimes we get interest. Monies are tight now. Sometimes we don't. But I don't toss away anything because I've had things come back to me. Say, for instance, last year we did Techstars. And we had applied to Techstars before. We didn't get in. And then Techstars came to us and we got in.
Amazing.
And so you never know. My dad used to tell me, you never know what bridge you may cross again or somebody may cross to meet you at again. And so I tell people one of my greatest takeaways is create a master list. Work through the list. Even if you don't ask them for anything, just introduce yourself. Get on their radar. Let them track you. You follow them. And then you never know. When the time comes, it may open up or they may come back for you.
Yeah. And
so I call it working smart and not hard, building relationships. So business to me as an entrepreneur is 99.9% of building relationship. And the technology is that 0.1%.
Yeah, it's the building bridges.
Because without relationships, building bridges. Without that relationship, you cannot build anything else.
No, I mean you don't know where anyone's going to go, right? You meet someone today, they're doing X job at X company, but you don't know where they're going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, and how that could have some sort of positive impact on where your vision is, where you're going, and you build that bridge today, and you may not have to cross it again for 5 more years, but by the time you get there, the bridge is already built.
The bridge is already built. I mean, just like you and I, we were introduced from somebody that I met at some place that I was speaking and presenting. And so people open the door for you, and this is a wonderful opportunity because I like what you're doing with the podcast, but it's also a wonderful opportunity to not only share, but also get BTEC out there to, let people know, hey, this is who we are. This is what we're thinking. We're looking for like-minded people that think along the same way. And it's great. And so I love collaborating.
Me too.
And I think that these ways are priceless. I could not pay anybody to do these and make these connections.
No, you got to just keep moving out and meeting people and sharing your vision and sharing your passion. I mean, you're very passionate about this business. You're very driven, and I'm sure you get a lot of. Are you speaking anywhere? Yeah, I think I saw you speaking at a function not too long ago.
Yeah. I was in. I did the women's. They did a women's entrepreneurship program event at Cleveland State University. I often get podcast invites, school invites for students. I'm participating right now just to give a shout out to the UMass Lowell. They do wonderful, wonderful programming there. I've done some programming with them, but they invited me to be a mentor. So I'm mentoring PhD candidates that are doing things with like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, neurological diseases. And so I've done 2 cohorts and it's wonderful. And I was like, wow, why would they ask me? But it's helping them to get their pitches together, think through their business, and not think as an academician, but think as an entrepreneur. And so in academia, we're taught to think certain ways and we're taught to present certain ways. And I'm like, forget all of that. Forget all of that. And let's talk about the real world. Because the real world doesn't think like that,
Yeah.
they don't present their business ideas like that. And it's so fruitful and so fulfilling to be able to
Yeah.
give back. So I think part of business, even as an entrepreneur, you should not just be thinking about building, 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 but you should also be thinking about how am I going to reach back and pull forward somebody with me.
Well,
And I think that that's not looked at in
yeah,
entrepreneurship
no, I think
often.
you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you would be an incredible inspiration, I'm sure, to other women who are out there looking to build a business, looking to be entrepreneurs, have an idea. Where do I start? Like, I mean, I think listening to you would be very
Hmm.
inspirational for them to take that step and move
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, that's my heart and passion because oftentimes I go into a room and I'm the only female and I'm the only person of color.
Hmm.
And so women are very intimidated when it comes to having a business, and they often back down. I tell people it's the only time that I will ever allow that word. I'm sorry, you might have to beep, beep, beep this, that bitch in the room.
You can say that.
And so I said that I said it at the last conference. I said, look, the only time you can call me that without me saying you got to knuckle up and we go into the parking lot is when it comes to business. I want to be known as the baddest bitch in the room, and I'm going to bring it. I come with the attitude of bringing it. And so a couple of years ago, I won Futureland, their pitch cipher, and I was on the panel and I told the people, I said, I came to bring it today. Now, whether I win or not, my attitude is I'm a winner. It's not a matter of if I win. It's a matter of when I win. It's a matter of when I go to market. It's a matter of when I get to where I'm, targeting to get to. It's never the word if. And if we begin to think like that as female founders and entrepreneurs, then we get to take on what I call a ballsy attitude. And we begin to be like, I can do this. I have a great idea. I have something that people want, no matter what it is. Whether it's a baby food product to a deep tech life science where you're building the next space shuttle, I don't care. Whatever it is across the spectrum, if you don't believe in yourself and that you have what it takes and that you have what it takes to be in the room, then you're going to fail. And you may as well just put your shingle up and go home. But if you think of yourself in that way, that I'm the greatest thing here since sliced bread came on the scene, you're going to succeed. And you're going to get people to buy into you. And you're going to get people that are going to champion you. So it's all about your attitude. And you don't have to be mean and nasty or any of
No.
those things, but you gotta own what you know and own that you have a good idea
It,
and that you have value and not an imposter syndrome and not being bullied out of the space. So when people would say to me, well, how do you know this? Oh, I got something for you. And I went and got myself accepted into another PhD program,
wow.
right? Because people were asking me. I said, oh, I got something for you. Hold up. I'll be back on that one. When they say, do you have this? I said, hold up. I don't have that right now. And I would go and create it. Oh, do you have this relationship? Hold up. I'll be right back to you. I'm going to get that relationship. Because I'm not to be
Right.
deterred. And I wish other females, that's why females are my passion. And I'm finding too, it's not just females, men have the same hang
Oh
up.
gosh. Yeah, a lot of yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What did you say earlier? Imposter syndrome? Man,
Imposter
I've
syndrome.
lived through that so many times. Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. If you don't,
Yeah. We don't want to call the pink bunny in the
that's
room,
right.
right? But we need
That's
to.
right.
I remember being in graduate school and I would raise my hand and I would ask a question and my peers would say, why, don't ask that, don't ask that. And I'm like, why not? I'm paying them $1 billion. I need to know. I don't want to sit here like Barney Rubble. And it was like, well, what are you talking about? I said, you ever watched the Flintstones? Barney had no light on in his eyes. It was like clueless. Nothing was registering. I don't want to be that person. I'm going to ask questions. And then I see all of y'all lining up like, yeah, I needed to know that. But they didn't want to
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah.
I'm the person that will ask.
If you need answers, all you have to you just have to ask, right?
You just have to ask and not be ashamed to say, I don't know. Let me
Right.
get back to
And
you.
to question things too. Like rather than saying,
And to
why
question
is it
things
like
too.
this? I was like, well, what, why is it like this?
Hmm.
And why can't it be another way? I think
Hmm.
asking questions that
Hmm.
actually challenge the status quo as well, right? Not being
Hmm.
afraid to ask those kinds of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I tell women, my first student was a male, my second one was a female. I told her, I said, look, you're always going to have somebody who's going to be an
Yeah.
asshole in the room. They're just going to try to, and it's generally a man, and he's going to ask you something stupid, and he's just trying to try you, and it's gonna shake you a little bit. Don't be shaken. Just tell them that's a good question. I don't know. I'll get back to you. We can talk offline, and then just shut them down. Very
Sure.
friendly, very gently, because again, you don't know what bridge you have to cross. But don't be intimidated because that's what they're
Right.
trying to do.
Trying to get a reaction.
They're
Yeah.
trying to get a reaction, but not a
No.
positive reaction,
Because
a
usually in a
negative
situation
reaction.
like that, you're already nervous. And so that kind of situation would give some
Hmm.
sort of defensive response, which is not necessarily always a
Exactly.
good one. It's almost like, well, that's a great question, but I'm going to have to get back to you on that one because I don't have an answer at the moment. But yeah,
Yeah, and
it's
and it's
okay. Yeah.
okay. I thought it's okay for me not to know. What I know, I'm going to say and I'm going to present. But all of the rest of it, it's fair game. And it's just like we all have some Barney Rubble moments in our times in our lives. So it's okay.
Yes, it's okay. That's good advice too. It's all okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
Wendy, I
yeah.
think you got a book in there somewhere. I
I
think
think
there's
so
a book in
too.
there. 100%. 100%. I think I see a bestseller,
I
Amazon
think so
bestseller.
too. Yeah, yeah. Or at least at the very least, the college tour.
This has been excellent. Is there anything you'd like to sort of wrap our conversation up with? Anything we haven't talked about that you'd like to make sure we have on the show here?
Um, I just think being an entrepreneur is a great journey. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about how much tolerance you have for pain thresholds in terms of not having any money coming in. You learn a lot about building something from nothing that can become something that is life changing for others in the marketplace. And that don't forget to have fun along the way. Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't take your failures and internalize them. Um, get up and say, okay, if you don't get accepted into something, you're going to hear more no's than yeses. And that's okay. Just keep plugging along. Because for every no, there's going to be a yes somewhere. And don't give up. You have to be your own best champion, your own encourager. You have to make sure you bring your family along for the journey so they understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, because you need support and you need a core set of people around you. Not 50, 20 people, but a core set of people that will drop everything they're doing when you say all hands on deck, I need you to do some research. And I have found that that is priceless. And people that will come and work for you will come and work because they like you, they like what you're doing, and they want to see it advanced into the marketplace. So the talent will come as well. You just need to focus on building something that is great as a business that has a good product ideal.
Amazing advice.
And thank you, Heath. Thank you, Heath, too, for the opportunity today. It
Oh,
was
it's been my
great.
pleasure. It's just been great to get to know you and meet you and hear your story. I see great things happening for you in the your. I can't wait to see where it goes from here. I love that your story came back to NASA at some point, where you were after your father being at NASA, and then and then it came around, and you are now working with NASA.
Hmm.
I just love that part. That was very cool. Anyway.
And what's so funny is when I was after my master's degree, the government, I don't know if they still had this program, but they used to have a program that looked for people who just got out of either a master's degree or a PhD that they could train to go into what they call the SES, which is the Senior Executive Service. So those are the ones who run the agencies. And my goal was to do that, to run an agency. So I got through all of that, got into that program. And one of the first places that recruited me was NASA out in California.
Oh, no kidding.
And NASA in California sits on the Edward Air Force Base. So you had to drive through the desert to get there. And between the base and the desert was a prison. And when I got out to the base, they put me on the stealth fighter and they let you sit in it. And so how many people in their lifetime can say that they sat on the stealth fighter and you smell the gas because it's been rolling across the body frame and all of that. And then they said, oh yeah, occasionally we have prison breaks. And you had to drive through and pass through the desert, past the prison, back into the small little town every day. And I was like, oh, I don't know if that's the life for me. Though I really wanted to do it. But at the same time, I got an offer to go to a Fulbright in Norway.
Oh, wow.
And so what my academic advisor said to me, don't be a fool. Go to Norway. And so instead, I went to Norway.
Oh, isn't that cool? Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so NASA always comes up in my life.
Yeah, it's come up more than once, hasn't it? Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's like Al Pacino. He said, I thought I was out, but they keep pulling me back in, and that's what I feel about NASA, but in a good way.
It'll probably come back again. I'm sure it will. Yeah.
I hope so.
Well, thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate it, and I know the audience will enjoy our conversation. Wendy is definitely an inspiring spirit. She's got great energy, great passion. She's got a vision for her company, and I have no doubt she's going to cross the finish line. She also had some amazing advice for young people, young entrepreneurs who are entering the market with business ideas and vision for the future. The part that resonated with me was the building of bridges, where every network, every conversation, every person you meet, every conference you attend is a potential opening or doorway to where you want to be, where you want to go. And it may not be the next day or the next week, next year, the next 4 years. Somewhere along the line, you may run into somebody who you met, who you inspired, who you influenced, who you had some sort of conversation with that results in a pinnacle moment in the evolution of your business or career. So building bridges as opposed to burning them. And every stone you lay today will build the bridge for when you need to cross it when the time comes. So I definitely see a book in Wendy's future. So hopefully she decides to go ahead and do with that, as I think she's got a lot to share. And she's certainly an inspiration to me. So I hope you enjoyed our conversation. And thanks for listening to The Healthy Enterprise. And you yourself, stay healthy, stay tuned, and thanks for listening.